one of my most successful traits, meaning the traits that I have been gifted in life that has made me the most money, is the ability to fight the system.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair. I was reminded recently that I sometimes sound angry on these podcasts. I hope not. I don't feel anger. I really don't. I do feel passionate. And I think that that's a good thing. If I wasn't passionate about what I'm talking about, I don't think it would be very interesting to listen to. But if I've come across as angry, my apologies. I will try not to be. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair. My happy smiling face today. If you're on YouTube, you can see. Hi, everyone in YouTube land. We're sponsored today by Synapse. Synapse, of course, is a great program for supporting your adjustments. And more folks, we're being asked to support our adjustments. Find out more by going to spark4appraisers.com, spark4, appraisers.com. All right, folks, I want to, in a very happy and cheerful way, address some of the naysayers out there. I have received some criticism, some of it constructive, some not, regarding an episode that aired a couple months ago. And the episode was number, I think, 955, if you want to go back and listen to it. And it came with a bit of a clickbait title, okay? But not really. I mean, the title was not wrong. When I use clickbait, by the way, folks, I don't use erroneous information. I don't lie to you. But I will sometimes put a spin on it that gets you to click. I mean, that's the purpose of clickbait, right? But everything in the title was accurate. I'm paraphrasing the title. Maybe this is exactly what it was, but it was something to the effect of, in 3 years, appraisals will take 30 minutes or less. Something like that, okay? Folks, I got so much public and private feedback that I felt like it was necessary to kind of circle back to the topic at hand today. So I'm not going to recount the entire episode. I would encourage you to go back and listen to it. I think it was a full episode, so 20 minutes or so. And it was my take on what I feel is going on in the appraisal industry. Now, one of the things that I stressed in that episode is that I don't have a crystal ball, though I actually do. If you're on YouTube, you'll see my my crystal ball here. Some of you that are listening and not watching are like, does he really have a crystal ball in it? I do. You could verify. I have a crystal ball in my hand, and most of the time, I'm going to put it back up on the shelf here. Most of the time, it is accurate. Some of the time, it's cloudy, and some of you felt like I was a little bit cloudy on this particular thing, and that's fine, folks. First of all, let me establish something up front. My job is not to tell you what you want to hear. Okay. If it was, I don't think this would be a very popular show. Honestly, I don't think you come here to be coddled. I don't think you come here to be satiated in your feelings about things. But there are a lot of, speaking of angry appraisers, there's a lot of angry appraisers out there, right? And they're angry with the changes that are occurring, the modernization, the technology. They just want to be left alone with forms and worms and those, sticky, telephone book maps showing where comp 1, comp 2, comp 3 are. Every once in a while, you had to go to a comp 4. And just leave me alone, right? let me do appraisals the way that I've always done that. But I'm sorry, folks. No, I'm not sorry. The changes are a coming, folks. They're afoot. Okay. and and I'm not saying that I'm correct in my philosophies, my guesses. I want to stress that, right? But the way that I see the world is pretty clear to me, right? The crystal ball is not very foggy on this one. We're already seeing things move in that direction, and I don't see them stopping anytime soon. And so part of my quote unquote job, I feel, part of the work here, part of my mission as the appraiser coach is not to coddle, but to inform and to at least share with you some possibilities of what could be coming. One of the things that we are doing in the mastermind right now, and we have been for a couple of years now, but it is increasingly getting more intense, is redoing much of the structures that we have had in place. When I say structures, I'm talking your business structure that we have had in place for many, many years. And the reason is we don't want to be the appraisers that are left out in the cold. I was on a phone call just this morning with an individual. Well, that's not true. I was on a Google Meet this morning with an individual who is highly knowledgeable, very much understands the intricacies of this business. And I have the blessing and privilege, by the way, the wisdom and insight that you get on this microphone is not Dustin Harris's, right? I simply am in a very providential circumstance where I get to listen to the big boys, the big girls, the individuals that are in the know. I get a not a seat at the table, but at least a fly on the wall. I have an opportunity and blessing, if you will, to rub shoulders with some individuals that are in the know when it comes to the appraisal industry. And I think that gives me a bit of a leg up when it comes to coaching and helping other business owners because we don't wait for the train to hit the station before we start packing our bags. The goal is that we understand where that train is going, what time it's going to stop at the station, and then we do our best to get ready beforehand and prepare beforehand. Now, let me be very clear, and I know I'm speaking in platitudes. We're talking about trains at the station, right? Let me just be very clear for a second. The appraisal world is changing, but it has not changed completely yet. It will constantly be evolving. So, is it possible to go home today and rearrange your entire business model for something that we don't know for sure is going to happen? I think that would be foolish. But folks, if we're going to sit and hide our heads in the sand and say these changes are not coming in any fashion, or we're going to fight them, that's probably the most hateful, if you will. Hateful is a strong word. It wasn't hate toward me. Angry. Probably the most angry messages that I got over the last couple of weeks regarding episode number 955 were individuals that say, Dustin, we need to fight this, right? We can't just sit back and let this happen to us. Okay, that's where I want to, that's what I want to address today. That particular criticism of my podcast. The purpose of the podcast was to lay out what I feel is going to happen and it's already started, right? In a very real sense, has already started in a very real sense. So to lay out what is going on in the appraisal industry so that you can prepare. Now, again, I want to circle back because I didn't fully close the loop here a second ago when I was talking about that. I don't think that you can fully prepare for what is coming right now because it's not come yet, and we don't know for exact sure what it's going to look like. But you better believe that in my mastermind groups and even in the all-star team that we are starting to address the changes that are coming. I'll give you an example. I think that AI, whether you hate it or love it, is here to stay. Not only is AI here to stay, I've compared it, by the way, to being, 1997 in the internet era, right? Remember back to 1997. Now, the internet had been out a few years, but there were still people thinking that it was not that big of a deal. Okay. AI is as big a deal or maybe a bigger deal, okay, than the internet itself. Okay. So I think the analogy is pretty clear. And I think it's pretty honest that when you look at AI, artificial intelligence, not the Appraisal Institute, that's the other AI. When you look at machine learning and artificial intelligence, folks, if you think that that is going away, or if you think it's not going to have much of an impact on the appraisal world, you, I'm sorry, are foolish. You're fooling yourself. And I don't mean that as I'm not trying to throw names around, okay? I'm not trying to call you a fool, but look up the definition of what a fool is. Okay. Someone who sees the writing on the wall and refuses to see it. I don't know if that's the actual definition, but in my mind, that's the definition. That's the definition I'm leaving, right? Or using. Maybe another word is ignorant. Okay. Maybe that's a better, softer word to use. So you're not a fool, but you're ignorant. Folks, I'm sorry, but you can ignore this all you want. It's still coming and it's already here and it's already changing our world. So, one of the things that we are doing in the mastermind is we are working with artificial intelligence, not against it. Okay. And maybe that's the quintessential analogy here, right? There are those individuals, and whether it's AI or whatever you want to plug in there, right? Modernization, Perea, customer and reasonable fees, the racist thing. I mean, all of this stuff. Plug what's going on in the world into that scenario, and there's two things you can do. You can pretend, and I do mean that, pretend to fight against it, or and don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying or just accept our fate, okay? Or you can understand the changes that are coming and prepare yourself. Am I starting to sound angry? I'm still smiling. Or you can start to prepare yourself for, again, the inevitable. Now, let me back up for just a second. I have never not been a fighter. Okay. In fact, probably one of my most successful traits, meaning the traits that I have been gifted in life that has made me the most money, is the ability to fight the system. Okay. Is the ability to look at the status quo and say, maybe there's a loophole there. Okay. I am the quintessential think outside the box guy. Okay. And I have spent much of my life in the political arena as well. I'm not talking appraisal, I'm talking the actual political arena. I grew up in a very politically active home, and that's never worn off. Okay. And so, especially on a local level, I'm very active in trying to shape my local government. Okay. So my point in telling you that, folks, is I am not one that's going to lay down and just let stuff happen. Okay. But I also am wise enough and self-aware enough to know what I have control over and what I don't. The things that I have control over on, I absolutely think you should speak up. Almost anything that comes up when it comes to major changes in the appraisal world, you will see, if it's public, that I have made a comment on it. I actively write my Congress I have them on speed dial, if you will. Like I've got an email called politicians that have all of my local individuals that elected officials. And if I see something coming, whether it be appraisal related or not, I can send one email and it can go to all of them. And I do it frequently. When I say frequently, a couple times a year. Okay. I am not one to sit down and just let life happen. That being said, I'm also wise enough to know that things are happening and I want to prepare myself for such. Okay. When we get back from the break, I want to recap the episode 955. And then I want to tell you and answer directly, if you will, the critics of that episode. Of course, we want to pause and remind you that we are sponsored by a great company called Synapse. Synapse, of course, is the way to support your adjustments. Folks, more and more, speaking of modernization, more and more people are indicating that You need to, and when I say people, I'm talking about your clients, okay? That you need to not just have adjustments, that you really need to support them. I know, shocker, right? Um, Now is the time, folks, to understand that technology can indeed help you with that. Synapse can help you dramatically and for a cost that is well worth it. Please check them out by going to spark4appraisers.com. Again, spark4appraisers.com. I didn't mention it at the top of the episode, but we are also sponsored today by Alamode. Alamode, of course, is the way that I use technology to help me every single day. I mean, we're talking about a technology that is light years ahead of some of the other technology out there, folks. And I know some of you were raised with something else, if you will. Okay. But today we're talking about change. And part of that change is to deal with and to partner with a group that understands and gets it. Alamode does. Check them out by going to their website at alamode.com, or of course, you can call them. They actually answer the phone. Call them at 800 Alamode. And welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair. Okay, quick recap. Episode number 955 rather, was an episode about change and was an episode about what I see happening. Again, just a brief recap. I'm not going to go back and listen to the episode. I'm not going to recap the whole thing, but I recommend or suggest rather, I prophesy that in about 3 years, and it may happen sooner. I don't think it will happen any later, but it may. In about 3 years, I believe that the appraiser's role is going to be more of a reviewer role than an active appraiser technician role. Okay, let me again briefly explain. With the direction that machine learning is going and with the things that we can do and will be able to exponentially do very soon, okay, I don't see the traditional appraisal model being relevant for too much longer. And specifically, I don't see that the idea of getting the order on your fax machine, okay, not really, but getting the order over your email or wherever you get it, scheduling the appointment, going out, doing a half hour to an hour walkthrough, gathering the sketch and the photos and the data, driving your comp photos, coming back to the office, uploading it all to your software, finding comps, making adjustments, reconciling the value, sending it off, getting, yeah, getting the revision requests, right, and then fixing things and moving on. I don't see that being the model that we can plan on in the future. Okay. I think that with machine learning, it's going to look something like this. We will get the appraisal order after all of the main stuff has been done. Meaning technology and or another human has already gathered the information about the subject. Comps have already been chosen. Adjustments have already been made. Reconciliations have already been done, at least initial ones. And we, as the appraiser, will be looking at this more as a review of what the technology / other people have already done than a start to finish appraisal. That's why I say it will be done in less than 30 minutes for the most part. Your job in the future, appraisers, is most likely going to be to review that work and make sure that it was done properly. You're going to be the one that says, whoa, hold on, machine learning. I know you picked all of these comps and made all these adjustments and you have all this support for these adjustments, but you don't get Idaho Falls, Idaho like I do. I've been appraising here long enough to know that you should not have used a comp from that neighborhood and compared it to that neighborhood. Those are the types of things that we're going to be doing. Okay. I do think we're going to be relevant, but I do think there's going to be less need for appraisers, not more. Meaning I think there's going to be need for less appraisers in the future. That's probably a better way to put it. There will be a need for less appraisers in numbers in the future, but still a need for appraisers. Most likely our coverage area is going to be increased because I don't think we're going to get paid a full, quote unquote, reasonable fee that we're used to now for all the work that we're doing. Obviously, if we're doing a 30-minute appraisal, we're going to have to do more appraisals during the day, less footwork in the field. Okay, that's my prediction. I could be wrong. Maybe I will be. Some would say, I hope you are, and that's fine. But folks, that's my prediction. So to address the naysayers and just to wrap things up here, many of you reached out and said that by saying that publicly, I am manifesting it to happen. Okay, really? I okay. I mean, it's like Kodak saying, "Oh my gosh, digital photography is coming," and all of a sudden it's going to happen because Kodak said it. I mean, folks, really, this is not stuff that I chose. It's stuff that's happening. Okay. Could I be wrong? Sure. Do you really think that little old Dustin Harris on his tiny little microphone is going to affect the GSEs and the direction that things are going? I don't know. I don't think so. The other question I was asked this morning is, well, what about private appraisals? And I think they will go the same way. It will just take much longer to get there. Okay. Lenders will drive this change. Okay. Now, what does that mean for you and me? Right? Again, going back to what I said earlier. Okay. I am a huge advocate of making sure that we make sure our voices are known. Okay. Scream and yell all you want, right? Complain all you want. I absolutely think that those things do have an effect. Okay. They do. So I'm not discouraging that. But in the end, folks, things happen. And it is up to us to decide what that means for us and our business. Okay. Does that mean you get out of appraisal completely? I think a lot of you will. I hope that most of us will say, you know what? I can still be successful as an appraisal business owner with the changes that are coming, just like I did when changes have come in the past. Thank you for joining me today, folks. Happy me. I'm still smiling, not angry. Love you all. Thanks for joining me, and go create some value.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.